Welcome into the Take Command Pregame Show, live from Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor, where doors open in a little over an hour from now. Logan Paulsen, that is Logan. I am Craig Hoffman. Thanks so much for joining us to get ready for the Commanders and the Giants. And Logan, I just want you to know, for those watching on the YouTube stream, I did not pick the chairs. I did not make it so that you
fell into the
all of a sudden are shorter than me.
No, it's good.
This is just no, Tim. It's fine. I think it's great. I just didn't pick it.
No, this is fine.
I for once in my life, working with or covering football players, I get to look like a regular-sized human.
Like a giant kind of low-key.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it, but that's okay. If we switched chairs, do you realize I would be like at the table?
I know, it would be very small, very tiny.
Compared to what you would look at. Anyway, the point is the Commanders are playing the Giants today. And it's going to be, I think, an interesting game, Logan, because I could make a very clear and direct argument that the Commanders should smoke the Giants today. Because the Giants' offensive line is as banged up of a unit as I can ever remember seeing. I think it was Kime on his podcast, who somehow gets referenced every week on this show.
Kime's our guy.
He is our guy. So, like, he referenced a game that he and I covered back in 2017 when Kirk was still here, where the Commanders literally had 45 players healthy for a game.
Really?
And they went to Seattle and won.
Wow.
Which was crazy. Like, Brandon Sheriff was active, but couldn't actually physically play. Mm-hmm. So there's been, of course, games like that, and for those that cover the league nationally, maybe there's other times that they could bring up references, but it is as banged up a unit. Earl said it in the previous show. Like 7 of their 9 offensive linemen from the opening day roster are hurt.
Do we have a list of that? I hate to put you on the spot, but
I don't have the original, but like for instance, just at left tackle alone, obviously Andrew Thomas, one of the better left tackles in football. He's hurt his hamstring in the first half of week 1, hasn't played since. He's out today. His backup is a guy named Pert. He's out. Yeah. I think Shane Lemieux was another guy they would use at that spot. He tore his bicep this week in practice.
Did he really?
And so
he was starting at center or something for him?
They had moved him around. Yeah. And so my guy Justin Pugh, Syracuse's own, was there when I was there, goes from straight off the couch to playing left guard to now lining up against Chase Young at left tackle. But we know it's a division game. We know the Giants present some problems defensively that could keep them in the game if they can get a couple of things going offensively or against the Commanders' offense. So I think unlike the Chicago game, where you look at the Giants objectively and go, this is probably, by the way, with their backup quarterback, a worse football team than the Chicago Bears were. I think the feeling going in where everyone thought, hey, the Commanders should blow out Chicago, and we all know what happened there, is very different going into this New York game.
Yeah, and I think, versus Chicago, there was like a lens where you were like, they do have the ability to create explosive plays. Their offensive line's playing at a passable level. They run the football well. Like, there was a lot of things you were like, okay, there's something here for Chicago, and there is a world where they win this football game. I don't think we thought they were going to win it the way they won it, but there is a world. And for whatever reason with New York, it doesn't feel that way because of all the things you just mentioned. Backup quarterback, offensive lines in shambles. Even when their offensive line's healthy, it's not playing well. But like when you look at the national narrative around the team, it's like a 2-point game. It's an under one score game. And I think
it's now up to 3 is the latest line, but it was 2.5 for a lot of the week. Like Vegas is expecting it to be close, and these games are always close between these teams.
Yeah, and I think to your point though, like why would that be? Is my question. And I think if you kind of take a step back from like the Commanders' focus that we have, we cover the team every single day almost, or talk about them every single day, is that when I look at this defense for the Giants, I feel like what they do really is kind of like the kryptonite, or kind of exactly where this offense is weak for the Commanders, right? Like they bring a lot of pressure. They lead the league in unblocked pressures. They haven't got home as much. They're like 31st in sacks or something like that. So they haven't got home a ton. But one of the things that Sam Howell does, he holds the football a lot. So if you're holding the football a lot versus unblocked pressures, like they're going to get home. And if they get home more in this game than they've been getting home the last couple of weeks, which every single team we've played against has done, what happens at that interaction? We're taking a lot of sacks, fumbles, interceptions, bad looks, and then all of a sudden you're looking at a team, again, like this defense, for whatever reason, did a great job against Miami. I know the score was like 42-20 by the end of the game, but they had a defensive score. They had 3 turnovers in that game. They created 3 turnovers in that game. And so if that game script happens to this Commanders team, it's going to be very challenging for them to win for a myriad of reasons. And everyone says, "Oh, well, their offensive line's terrible." They know their offensive line's terrible.
Right.
Like, they're not going to call a game that's going to leverage that group in a crazy way. You know what I'm saying? They're going to call a game that's conservative.
100%.
Get Tyrod Taylor out of the pocket. Be very selective about when you take your shots. And when you look at the history of this group, the Commanders' defensive line, I know we've been talking a lot about them this week, is when teams call games appropriately, when they have a good game flow in terms of, hey, we're going to run a quick game, we're going to run a screen, we're going to run a play pass, that group gets really, really quiet, or can get really quiet. And I feel like that's exactly the model they're going to follow in New York this week. And if you can do that, it's going to make it challenging for them to get in a rhythm as rushers, if the game's close and if the defense can keep them in it.
100%. And I think that's like the most important point, right, is the Giants are not on – well, I think there's two really important points to make. One is to go back kind of to the weak point and touch on it. Like, the one way where the Bears beat the Commanders is, okay, the one thing they do pretty well is they have explosive plays, and sure enough, they have a bunch of explosive plays. The one thing the Giants do well is blitz, and that is like the other, on the other side of the ball is the weak point for the Commanders. So we'll obviously dive into that here in a little bit. But the Giants, as you said, they're not under some delusion that they're actually good on the offensive line.
Right.
Maybe they would have been at the beginning of the year if they had all their dudes, but like 7 of the 9 dudes that they had from the original bad line are not there.
Yeah.
And so they're going to, one, they have Tyrod Taylor, who's a veteran, who understands this, and we have some data to back that up. 2, they know we've got to move the pocket. We've got to do a couple of different things to keep Tyrod safe from this rush. And so figuring out a plan to overcome that, I think, is an interesting strategic question. But again, like, even just getting the ball out of his hands, Tyrod Taylor last week is like 2.6 seconds to throw.
Yeah.
And even his time to sack number is low.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, if you can drop him, get him to drop back and like get a game flow where that's kind of what they have to do, they'll lose pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But Tyrod will get the ball out of his hands, and they will definitely move the pocket. So how do the Commanders, like, we kind of know the playbook for keeping a quarterback safe. What's the counter to that? How do the Commanders come up with a blitz plan, a pressure package to actually take advantage of this bad O-line if they're moving Tyrod all over the place?
So I'm kind of maybe old school in this philosophy, but I do think you have to like earn the right to rush the passer, especially against a team like the New York Giants. And what I mean by that is I feel like you need to be really efficient on first and second down when it comes to stopping the run and managing like those boots and keepers we were talking about. If you look at the game flows for the last 2 New York games from last season, like, New York did a good job of managing like first, second down really well. They're in like a lot of second and shorts, third and manageables. And when you have a mobile quarterback and a relatively efficient run game and a guy that can get out of the pocket, like, those become much more reasonable, right? We talked about last year, like, one of the things that elevated them in all those one-score games with Daniel Jones was able to kind of steal third downs, right? And so Tyrod Taylor has a very similar skill set. So if I'm Washington, I'm saying, how efficient can I be on first and second down? And if you look at Jack, like, that's not really like at his core in terms of value, but in this game, I think it's especially important. Let's get to 3rd and 8, and then let's rush the passer. And so obviously I think from a one-on-one standpoint, you feel pretty good about it, but can we continue to kind of give these guys tools to play better? Can we create overloads? Can we show simulated pressures? Can we do some things from a stunt standpoint more frequently that just gives them more opportunities to kind of disrupt the offensive line? And we've talked about that on the podcast, but I think that's something that I would say, like, I'd like to see more of is can we find ways to make their job easier? I know they're really good, and I think that's something that I experienced when I was playing as coaches with good players rely on them to be good. Like, I remember when I was in Atlanta, like, Julio Jones is there. It's like, okay, yeah, well, if we get in a bind, we'll just throw the ball to Julio. And it's like, I understand that, but what are you doing to help Julio?
What if you took the same things you did for players that aren't that good and applied them to players who are good?
Yeah, like, I understand you want, like, Julio will win this, like, 19 out of 20 times. Like, he's going to win this route all the time. But there's also that time where, like, the defense knows that he's going to be in trouble. They're going to bracket him. Like, can we motion him? Can we move him around? Can we give him a different stem? Can we give him a different launch point to run the route? Just to make sure that that's easier for him. And I think there's a little bit of that going on the defensive line. And I hear fans talk about it. It's like, oh, they're studs. They should be balling. When you look at defensive lines, really good defensive lines, like, they are supported by good game plan, and I think that's also something that Jack could do here, especially if just getting guys in rhythm, I think, is important too. So that's something I'd like to see is earn the right to rush the passer on first or second down, and that's going to be hard because they're going to do some stuff. They're going to move the pocket. They're going to run trick plays. They know the score. They're going to need to kind of play above their skis to win this game, but this is a very winnable football game for them. So they're going to make sure that everything's in the bag. So manage first and second down well, get to a third and long, be disciplined in terms of rush angle and approach, and get some pressures. And I think if Jack can if the defense can do that on first, second down, and then on third down, like have a plan to beat their protection scheme, I think you're going to be in a good spot.
All right, that is Logan Paulsen. I am Craig Hoffman here on the Take Command Pregame Show on a burgundy and gold game day. Still to come this hour, Kevin Sheehan joins us at 10:30. You'll hear a little bit from Eric Bieniemy at 10:45 on how the wide receivers are coming along and hopefully getting on a little bit better same page with Sam Howell and using some different tools and tricks to get a little bit more productivity out of those guys, and especially, of course, Jahan Dotson. That has been a topic of discussion. Coming up next, we'll give some thoughts on the Washington offense and how they can protect Sam Howell against a blitz-happy Giants defense. It's the Take Command Pregame Show on 106.7 The Fan, the Team 980's Burgundy and Gold Game Day.
But really, like physically, like, you know, like what are the things, what are the points of contention or nervousness going into a game is like, what does this guy do physically? How does he move? Obviously, you can study film, but there's a different opportunity to kind of run around on a guy and, you know, put your hands on somebody and kind of know what they like to do to shed and kind of get a feel for it. And so as you get to know them better and they get to know you, you kind of start playing that advanced like chess metric. And I think the familiarity breeds like a faster game quality, because like I know exactly what this defense is. I know exactly how they're going to play this run. We ran it against them, you know, 6 weeks ago. Let's see it again. And we ran it against them last year twice. You know what I'm saying? So you get a really good feel for that. And obviously, like, the fans in the stadium are just a little bit more up. And so I definitely think the divisional thing is real. And you talk about it differently. You talk about divisional games in the week in a different way. So it's definitely something that's 100% real. And, you know, in the context of the Giants, like, for whatever reason, they just have a good feel for this team. They have a good feel, good opportunity. Like, you know, in our Take Fives, we talked about some Giants stories. Like, I felt like during early in my playing career, I had a really good feel for what the Giants were doing. Like, I don't know what it was. When I went in that game, I just felt like I knew them really well. And sometimes when the Giants play the Commanders, it's like they just have a good knack and feel for kind of the holes and the wrinkles in the defense and ways to scheme stuff open. So I think divisional games are so fun. They're so fun to watch. They're so fun to play in. And I think they're fun to talk about because, like you said, even in this game where, you know, we're going to talk about the Giants here in a second, Giants aren't a very good football team at the moment. Like, I don't know. And like Santana Moss is this is one of my favorite things he does. He's very consistent with his points of analysis. And anytime we're playing a divisional game, he's like, you can't count the other team out. And I think that's 100% accurate. And so whatever the record is, however bad the Giants have played, like, this team, the Commanders, need to come and like put their best foot forward and just say, like, we are the better football team, we're the better roster, and play like it. And I think
obviously the more the better. I think they're in a pretty good spot.
No, I would agree with that in terms of defensive production. I think the thing that this comes down to for me is can you protect the quarterback? Like, that is the number one thing. So if they can limit the New York Football Giants to 3 sacks in this game, I think that they probably win this football game. I think that is a definitive way that they win this game. I think that means they're in control. They're managing good situations. Also, I think just kind of another thing I'm thinking about is if they score first and they get out to a lead quickly, I think that also is something that really helps them win this football game. So both those things are things that got circled in red. I'm excited to see if they get that done.
I mean, the only thing that I would worry about is if you, like, they don't give up sacks, but they give up pressures, and those pressures turn into turnovers, right?
Yeah. You definitely don't want that.
That's something that's
it's more of a, like, is Sam not taking a bunch of negative plays, and are they protecting him? Is really what I'm trying to get at there. So if it's a ton of pressures and he's throwing the ball over the yard, and we get a ton of picks, like,
not good.
Not the business.
My way of combating that statistical potential anomaly is that I'm going to go like number of plays. If the Commanders run 60 plays, they win.
60.
So that means you're efficient offensively.
That
you're
seems
getting,
low, though.
I mean, they won with 50 last week.
They
so,
did. That is true.
I think
but 50 and 3 turnovers is the other thing there.
for sure. But
So.
if they run 60 plays, I mean, I don't want to put it too high. Like if they run 80 plays, they win.
They will
yeah,
win.
obviously. Thanks. Great analysis. So I really think the bar is that low because of how bad the Giants are offensively. If the Commanders can just run 60 plays, be efficient enough offensively to stay on the field, they will have converted enough getting enough third down conversions, or maybe even staying out of third down to get the points they need to win this game. Will they win the game? Denton Day, that is the next question to you, sir. Prediction time.
So on Friday, I had a different answer because I wasn't sure who was starting at quarterback. But now that I know it's going to be Tyrod Taylor, and I don't want this to sound like a dig against Tyrod. He's played in this league for a lot of years, and he's been a successful quarterback. But this is a game that Washington should absolutely win if they have the hopes of being a playoff team. I think they do it tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me. I'm going to go 24 to 10. I think Washington gets it done.
All right, big win for Washington.
Earlier in the week, I was totally on the same page with you, Denton, but the more I think about it, the more I think about what the Commanders have struggled with. I think the Giants' defense is going to present some challenges. So I'm going to say 20-17 is the score I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I'm
still a dub.
I'm struggling with this because, even though I kind of think that the Commanders have a minimum. Their offense has been good enough this year that they're typically going to get to at least 20. Yeah. And I think with where the Giants are a little banged up on that side of the ball as well, Dory Jackson not playing, I think they can get to 24. I'm gonna work in a margin for error. I'm gonna knock it back down to 20, and I'm gonna go 20-13 Commanders, which is still stressful. It's still a one-score game. But I just don't think the Giants have the offensive firepower to get they'll get one touchdown because we get one of those errors a la Arizona where it's they had the one sack fumble or one pick where they have to go short field. But if the Commanders, honestly, another key, if Tressway punts a lot today, the Commanders should win. Do not turn the football over for Washington, and you should be in good shape. You're in great shape if you just keep listening to this here radio station because Denton Day and Linnell Willingham will take you through the game with the Burgundy and Gold Game Day in-game show, the live show, taking your calls as well. And then Logan and I will be back for Take Command postgame on YouTube after the game, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcast platform and get it first thing tomorrow morning. Listen on your way to work. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Take Command pregame show on a Burgundy and Gold Game Day.